Hi, Rafael. With the trade deadline having passed, what was the thought process with sticking with the guys you have?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just said it. The process was really sticking with the guys we have. I think, I mean, obviously we talked to every team. We had discussions, but this year in particular, with the way the cap works, we're hard capped at the first apron. So constructing trades in the first place is hard. So that created one limitation. And then, just generally, I think the team's been very good the first half of the season. So we weren't looking to make change for change's sake at all. I think given the number of injuries we've taken, one thing we did look at was when, kind of like, is this just not our year? Because we do feel as though, like in kind of leading into today, we've had some of the worst injury luck in the NBA. But credit to Ime and to the guys in there. Our record doesn't reflect that. Our offense and defensive ranking don't really reflect that. And so we think, we like this group. And credit to Tillman. He didn't have an appetite for taking a step back. He definitely wanted to spend the money and give this group a chance to be as good as it can be, and just keep building and moving forward.
Rafael, what do you like about where your team's at and how you guys have kind of come together with the new pieces this season as the All-Star break approaches?
Yeah, I mean, it's been disjointed. The first half has been, and I think. And I think, like kind of starting from before preseason when Fred went down, I think we've had to figure things out on the fly a little bit. But I think they've done a good job. And I think there's a lot more to come. So generally I think we're in a very, very competitive place in a very, very competitive conference. And I don't feel as though this group has played its best basketball. And we've had a lot of change, way more than we anticipated this past summer. And I think that provides an opportunity for this group to coalesce over the second half of the season. I do firmly believe in continuity, and I think there's real advantages to teams that have continuity, and this group does not have that. And so, so I think time should be our friend in that respect.
Hey, Rafael. Do you have any update on whether you expect Fred to return at all this season? And if not, why do you think this is a championship-level offense without Fred?
Well, right now we're the fifth best offense in basketball, and we're the fifth best defense in basketball. Like, if you want to win a championship, a good rule of thumb is you have to be at minimum top 10 and top 10, and you really want to be top 5 and top 5. Now we're 5. We're not 1. We're 5. Or 5 and 5, and some teams in the NBA are very, very, very good. But I think we can be better. I don't think this group has had the benefit of continuity, and the players playing the bulk of our minutes are 24 and younger, so they need to be improving, not just from year to year, but even within a season. And so yeah, that's what I think. I mean, you'd have to ask Fred. I mean, we want Fred to do what's best for Fred. We're like, he's a big part of what we've done over the last 2 years, and we expect he's going to be a big part of what we do going forward. He's literally the toughest NBA player I've ever met. If he can play, he'll play, and I'm very comfortable with
that. This question's kind of for both of you, but. Kind of back to the offense for a moment. Per Cleaning the Glass, the team is ranked just 22nd in points per play in half court, but 6th overall offense, in large part due to the offensive rebounding, second chance points, that kind of thing. How would you kind of just assess the overall half court offense to this point in the season? And do you believe that the offensive rebounding and second chance points element is sustainable without Steven Adams for the rest of the year?
We want to be better, but our offense has been very good. I think I talked about this past summer and last year, and I'll continue. There are no style points. So saying that like the thing we do better than everyone else doesn't matter. And I'm not saying you're saying that, but if someone would, that's not an argument I buy into. What I buy into is, are you effective or not? And we are, and we have been. And in terms of our ability to continue without Steven, since he went down, we've been rebounding at, I think, a 36% offensive rebounding clip, which would still be number one in the NBA. So yeah, I mean, the one thing I do believe, and I know Ime has been on it, but I expect kind of post All-Star is going to grow and grow, is like Steven's a bit of a crutch, and so Amen has been the best non-big offensive rebounder in the league in past years. Tari was in past years. Jabari's always been well above average. Well, like, yeah, get back to doing it. Like, see, it's great if Steven gets every offensive rebound and you can just chill. But we have really, really talented guys who can do it, notwithstanding the fact that he's out. And it just puts more of an onus on us to do it by committee. But I think it's part of to the extent that this group has an identity, I think it's a big part of that identity, and we should continue to lean into it.
No, I would say, we've had ups and downs on offense for sure, and large part to shooting. And, started the year off really well, shooting the three, best percentage in the league, although lower attempts. And, we had that rough stretch, when we lost some of the games to Portland and Sacramento. And so we went through our slump there, individually and as a team. And so when that kind of rounds back into normal numbers, I think obviously the offense will go up. But, yeah, we haven't had any drop-off at all with Steven being gone. The other guys have stepped up, and Josh had 7 against Atlanta, and we had 20 a few games. And so we want to maintain that identity for sure. But to my point yesterday, talking about the first Boston game where we only had 12, we shot extremely well, and we obviously want that trade-off at any time. And so offensively, whether it's Jabari and going through his little slump or Alpi going through slumps at times, I think when guys come back to their norm, those numbers will go up. Continue to work on pace and movement and ball and body movement in the half court. That's obviously going to need to be an improvement going forward, and not being a stagnant and dependent on isolations.
Rafael, you guys talked before the season about Fred going down and Amen and LP being two guys who needed to take on bigger responsibilities, especially in half-court situations. What do you think about just the way they've kind of handled that this season and how they've operated without a traditional point guard in the starting lineup?
Yeah, I think that. I mean, our offense is 5th overall, so I'm very pleased. Like, I think, and Amen in particular has just had a really he's been a real stabilizing force for us. So I think they're doing great. They're 23, right? Amen just turned 23, yeah. And Alpi's still 23. They need to improve. Like, just because I'm very happy with them, I love them. Probably the thing I love most about them is not how good they are currently, but it's how hard they're working to become better, and my expectation is that's going to continue. I know they're not as good as they want to be, and they're not as good as we want them to be, but I think they've both had a good year to date. I think you were more on the offensive side of the ball, but it's incumbent, and like, we have to run with them. Like, our pace needs to pick up. Amen's the one guy who plays really well in transition. We have to run with him. Alpi's got to figure stuff out. Like, he's got to cut his turnovers down a little bit. Both of them do. But yeah, overall, like super happy with their progress. And Alpi's been, to me, he's played at an all-star level this year. So like, so just overall very pleased.
For both of you, many of your best players are young, like you said, Alpi, Amen, Reed. But Kevin Durant, the best player on the team, is 37 years old. How does those two opposite ends of the aging curve impact your urgency for this season? And what's your belief in Kevin's ability to maintain this high level of play moving forward into the latter stages of career?
Well, I mean, I signed him to a 2-year extension to start the season, so I believe he can maintain this. If not, I was wrong. But we talked to Ime actually made this point to me earlier, because we were talking about the team and our expectations for it, and the fact that we think we're going to get better. And I think we think we're going to get better because there'll be some synergy. There should be some synergy. There should be people learn to play with each other. That should help this group. But it's also the case that given the age of our 5 of the guys who play the most minutes, they need to be improving kind of monthly and yearly and everything else. And there should be real improvement for those guys between now and the end of the season. And he made the point to me that he didn't want to use the word development because we're not a developmental team, because when people think development, they think, it's like you're just rolling the ball out there and whatever, or it's okay to lose. And we are not the team. We're not okay when we lose. I mean, you guys are around our team. We do not feel okay when we lose. And the expectation from everyone in our group is we're going to be a winning basketball team. And these guys have won a lot of games last year and this year. And so we're not trying to develop. But just because we're not trying to develop doesn't mean we shouldn't be improving, and that they shouldn't be improving. And they should be. And so that's kind of our expectation. Going to Kevin with this group, I mean, Kevin with this group, we've been top 5 this year on offense and in defense. We're right in the mix with everyone else. I think that we're still learning how to play with one another. We're still learning stylistically how best to execute. And so I think it's been a really good fit. I'm very happy with him. I think he's very happy with the group. And I'm excited about the way we move forward for the remainder of this year, and if we continue at this pace, the playoffs, and then the next couple of years as well.
And I would, piggyback on that a little bit. Just the loss of Fred this year, and then Dylan and Jalen, and sometimes a fourth starter out there. So it's not a lot of continuity with the group. You have to figure out how to play together. But for us, I think the competing phase, it was when I got here 2 years ago. We competed with everybody, and whether we won or lost, we kind of had that mentality shift, and I think we accomplished that. But that's not where we're at anymore. To compete, like I said, it was years ago. We expect to win now, and but you also expect to take a few lumps with some new guys in different roles and new players being added. And so I think you'd be foolish not to think there's going to be some ups and downs. But when we compete and lose, or don't play up to our standard, compete against the better teams and kind of play down to the level of other teams, that's not a great feeling. We need to get over that. And I think the whole group understands that, young guys included, but it's not just on, like we said, Kevin's in the building now, and everybody else has to just kind of stay on board with him. Everybody else has to grow throughout the season. That's the biggest thing with us, is continued growth, and we see our ceiling being much higher than it is right now.
Rafael, you have an open roster spot. I believe you're past the point in the calendar in which you can use it and stay beneath the first apron hard cap. As you look to the potential buyout market, what needs do you see this team having? What's your mindset going into the next couple of weeks?
I mean, again, the team's been pretty successful, and our current rotation of guys, we've won. All have been big contributors to our record to date, right? Obviously, Fred hasn't played at all this year, and Steven did play a significant role, and we obviously miss him. But it's a big reason why we signed Clint, and we're really happy with Clint and where he's at. And I think, Ime's defense isn't. We don't play defensively the way most other teams play, and Clint's never played this style before. I do, even though Clint's not an age where I think he's individually improving the way a 23-year-old is. I do think that there's meat on the bone for him to figure it out, to get better, to get more efficient within our system. So I don't know that we look at our team and we're like, oh, there's somebody who's being waived by another team that's going to come in and immediately impact us. But it's my job to do all the work. We'll take a hard look at the buyout market. I don't even know what it is yet. Like, no one's been, unless somebody got bought out in the last hour, no one's actually been bought out yet. And so yeah, like, I mean, it's like the trade deadline, and everybody's like, what are you going to do? And then you're like through it, and you're like, oh, that's great. Like, relax. No, now what are you going to do in the buyout market, right? And so a lot of it is like, I don't know, kind of like I don't know what teams will trade. I don't know what players are going to be bought out, and I don't know what opportunities present. And yeah, we'll be aggressive in looking at it, but generally people only want to come if there's a role for them, and so that's a pretty high bar with us. But it's also but we'll see. Like it, I would say we're interested in it. We will monitor it. There definitely are players that 100% we would bring in if they were to get bought out. they're probably not super likely to be bought out, but you never know. And so we'll check it out.
I know that there was a lot of chatter as far as teams reaching out about Tari, and I know that he hasn't signed an extension just yet, and I know that you can't go into the plans of what that's going to be as far as the contract and things like that, but what role do you see him playing in the future for this team, especially since, you weren't willing to give him up?
I wasn't willing to do what?
To trade him. There was a lot of chatter that the people were reaching out as far as one.
I mean, the people every player that's playing big minutes for us, somebody wants. Like, so they reach out about every single player on our team. And Tari's a very good young player. Lots of people want him. Lots of people want him, man. I mean, if you think it through, like, we're in an enviable position, right? We're playing 5 guys, huge minutes, none of whom are over 24, and we're winning in most of our games. All those players are wanted by other teams, and the entire league would love to have Kevin Durant. So everybody wants our players. Tari's certainly in that boat, but it's not unique. In terms of his role with us, he's starting. He's doing great, and even if he's not starting, he's an enormous contributor. Like he has since he got here, and we look forward to having a really great future with him. He's a big part of our plans.
Rafael, last night after the Celtics game, Ime said the team did not have the edge that it had last season. Have you noticed it as well, and do you think that's something they can pick up before the playoffs begin?
I mean, I think we're a different group than last year, and so yeah, like I think I do agree with that. I think I said to, I don't know, somebody, did I say to you, Jackson, that there's no style points? I don't know. But like, so that I would think of that as a style point that I think the two of us really like. So like, like I don't really care if our offense is pretty. I do like teams that play with an edge and a certain amount of physicality. Having said that, to correct myself, the goal is to win. It's not to win in any certain way. I think we want that edge. I think we'll grow it over time. I actually do believe that. But yeah, like I think, and I definitely think that we've had it at times. It's not been that we never have it, but I don't think we've had it as consistently. And and I think stylistically it is something that I would like to see, and I know Ime would as well. I think it's kind of part of my identity, part of his, and so teams that we're affiliated with, we'd like for them to reflect that.
And it's more of a consistent edge, and I think, we were known for that, but you add skillful players and you're going to have different looks. And like I said, Fred and Dylan, they bring that every night, and so that rubs off on the guys, but it's who they are. Other guys have grown and kind of learned that on the way, but ups and downs like always. And I think we've had halves, we've had quarters, and we wouldn't be here without it. A guy like Kevin Durant can't get to where he's at in his career without having that edge, although it looks different than the way Dylan does. And so, getting back to that consistently, and it's reflective in when we play against San Antonio, we play against Oklahoma City. You just feel it differently, and some of the lesser teams, we need to bring that on every night.
Yeah, Coach, Rafael talked about you kind of pushing back on the idea of being a developmental team. When you have younger guys who sometimes just need that runway to kind of learn from mistakes, how do you kind of balance, one, to prioritize winning on a night-to-night basis versus allowing some guys to learn through some mistakes, even if that costs you quarters or stretches of the game that you need?
Yeah, I think it's no different from 2 years ago. If guys played well, they played more. If they played well, they finished. And so you learn by going through mistakes. Now, I would say, Alpi going into his 5th year, Jabari and Tari, 4th year, and even I'm in his 3rd. You want to see growth in those areas and not repeated mistakes. And so I would say it's not much different than the past. Reed would be the one guy that you would say he's in the 2nd year, and he didn't play a ton last year, so you expect certain things. But the standard is standard, and you want guys to show improvement and progress in certain areas and not make repeated mistakes. And so Not a lot different as far as that aspect. I think who played well played more, and who played well finished, regardless of starters in the past, and guys kind of know that.
Thanks, Jesse.